Hello, I am the Rhythmic Biker. And did you know our guests today have a combined subscriber count of nearly 4,000 over on YouTube? Last episode, we were joined by Andy, a former Zimbabwean motocross racer with a beautiful Ducati Street Fighter V4S. In this episode, it's gonna look like a bus stop in here. These are the wolf tails.
Oh, no, he didn't. No. Should we cut from the beginning? Hi, my name's Dave, otherwise known as RevBomb or Mr. RevBomb. I currently ride a GTR1400. I work for Eclipse Motorcycles based in Milton Keynes. Check out all my social media and affiliate links on the website revbomb.co.uk.
My name is Simon. I have a YouTube channel called Simon GTR1400 and I ride, as you probably guess, a Kawasaki GTR1400. I'm on the older side of the riding community now, but I started in 1985. Not consistent, but been doing it since.
So we are joined by Simon and Dave, who can be found on Instagram and YouTube as Mr. RevBomb or RevBomb and Simon GTR1400. And they have kindly brought along their Kawasaki GTR1400s, heavily inspired by the already successful and well-known Kawasaki ZZR1400. With all of that said, let's waste no further time and jump straight in to the deep dive. Hello and welcome to The Deep Dive. This episode I'm joined by Simon and Dave, who have kindly brought in their Kawasaki GTR1400s. Simon, starting with you, I have to ask, why the Kawasaki GT1400?
Why not? Why not? It's a bike that does everything. It ticks all my boxes on my list for what I need to do. I need to commute, I want to go away with a wife, I want low maintenance, shaft drive, all weathers, plenty of fairing, big screen, keeps you nice and comfy, cosy during the winter months. I've had this one just over 3 years now. There's been no real downtime. She's never let me down. I bought her with around about 8,000 miles on the clock, and she's now done over 56,000. So
wow. So quite a lot of journeys there.
And that's quite a lot of mileage when you consider we was in COVID for 2 years. So yeah.
Weren't able to go anywhere. No, that's brilliant. I'm going to come back to that. But Dave, you've obviously owned the GTR a bit of a shorter time. You've recently come to it. Why the GT1400 for you?
I originally had a ZX7R sports bike, and obviously my age, getting a little bit to be an older rider, find it a little bit more uncomfortable for obviously doing long journeys. It is achy on the back, the knees and the arms. Went to look at a ZZR1400 originally. I wanted the more sporty looking bike, and everyone said the ZZR is going to be probably the beast that you want to own. Searched out a couple of people on YouTube, and then a friend of mine actually said, have you looked at the GTR, because it is a more upright tourer. Through that, searched YouTube and came across Simon, and Simon obviously popped into the garage to see me, and it just so happened a couple of days later this came in on a dealer trade. So we buy bikes from the dealer hub through the garage. Came in, I took it out the first weekend, enjoyed it. Asked to take it out the second weekend and really enjoyed it. And then obviously we did a sale video on it. We took it off sale and I said to the boss, Phil, that I want to own it. For me, it does. It ticks all the bells, the whistles. The power on it is absolutely immense. So it is a beast if you're a new rider coming into one of these. But as Simon said, it's got the adjustable screen, it's got plenty of storage on it, the seat is incredibly comfortable, and the ride position, you could go 200 miles easy before having a break on this. So hence, it's the ultimate bike, and as I said to so many people, this is now my forever bike. Has had a lot of modifications, so obviously compared to Simon, that is the Puig screen, so slightly higher. I actually went for an aftermarket custom-made screen, which is very, very similar to the ZZR1400, but you do get a lot more wind noise when riding compared to Simon's. The screen does come up, it's enough to deflect across the top of the helmet, but you will still get wind noise coming through the mic if you are doing, obviously, moto vlogging. Obviously went for an extreme paint colour, it was originally silver, and we've now, obviously, through our spray shop, gone with doing the vents, the mirrors, and the panniers and the top box, but obviously everyone now instantly knows it is my bike.
Very true. It was something I definitely was going to ask you whilst you were here, but why have you decided to change certain aspects of the bike? This colour, why this colour specifically?
The ZX7, I've always been Kawasaki green, team green all the way through, and I wanted a bit of green on it. Now, the original Kawasaki green is a very, very dark green, so we searched everywhere and we actually came across the Triumph Sprint green, which was a very, very light green. When we actually sourced the paint code, they don't do that paint at the right price. But then through, obviously, the paint company, they said, have you tried the KX250 green from the 1970s? So it's actually Kawasaki KX250 green from 1970s.
That's fair enough, so it's got a little bit of history to
70s,
it.
80s, so have 70s, 80s paint code, a little bit of history, and everyone has said, you know, when we first sprayed it, when the panels were off, and even Simon said to me, that is ugly, it's disgusting, it's going to make your bike look horrible. Once it's on the bike and it's been lacquered, everyone's now, oh, actually, it is a nice green. It's not too much green, but it's just enough to make it stand out. But obviously, from the front view, once you see those mirrors from the front, it's like high vis. It's an eye catcher, so it does make car drivers more aware of you.
Is the plan to keep it the way it is there?
It's staying the way it is.
No more panels are going to turn.
Nothing's going to be added to it now. So.
I've got to ask, so you've come from the ZX7R, the very nice looking Sports Ninja. What has it been like transitioning from a Sports Ninja to the GTR?
I miss the power of hammering around on the ZX7, but most people know we obviously do the Run to Super Sausage every Sunday. The first time we actually did a ride with Simon, and Simon said, come out with me, have a ride, we'll compare the two bikes. And I actually said to him, God, they've started building houses just down the A5 at Stacey Bush's. And he said, no, actually, they've been doing that for the last 6 to 9 months. It's just with the ZX7, you get tunnel vision. With this, you can actually enjoy the ride. You can sit at a nice, comfortable 70 mile an hour, 4,000 RPM, and actually enjoy what's going on around you.
That is fantastic. Simon, you've done a lot of miles on the bike. It's fair to say, have you done many tours with the GTR?
I've done one major tour, which was, we went down through France into Germany, Mumblesey, Black Forest, and even got as far as Switzerland to the Rhine Falls. And yeah, so that was within, I think it was within 2 or 3 weeks of actually getting the bike. So it was me and the wife and a group, Andy, Steve, and etc. Even Darren Spears was with us. So it was about 10 bikes, about 14 people, and yeah, that was the major one. And it was such a pleasure to ride, even on the twisty Black Forest roads and the mountain roads and everything else. She was very, very comfortable, very planted. And yeah, just stayed there and was happy all day long. I have been away several other times around the UK. Just recently got back from Cornwall. Me and the wife took a week down in Cornwall on it. Now, anybody that's ridden in Cornwall knows that if you get off the main dual carriageways, the roads aren't very wide and they are very, very twisty. Yes. Apart from the mud, she handled it absolutely beautifully, and she really did. She did not like the mud, and the wife or the bike. So. But once you got through that, she handled it very well. The luggage on it, I've got a slightly bigger top box on the back of that. It's 56 litre, so the wife can pack all of her bits and pieces she wants to bring away with us. Plenty of room for luggage, plenty of room for me, the wife.
Only half a pannier for you. And
I get the glove box.
No, you get
I get the glove box. Yeah, and even had to put a rack on the top just so somewhere to put the waterproofs. But yeah, so we do get away on it. Majority of the time I am commuting Monday to Friday backwards and forwards to work because it saves me time more than anything.
Before I ask about obviously how it is on those tours, you've obviously said very positive words about it. What's it like to commute on? Because from afar, you know, if you're if you're new to motorcycles or don't know anything about motorcycles, you look at this and honestly, I imagine the first impression is it's the bus equivalent. Do you know what I mean? So what's it like to commute on?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to commute on this, it's not for the newer rider. You need a bit of experience in it because it is that wide. You're going to start filtering down motorways. You need to be looking well ahead and judging the gap. Now, whenever you get on a bike and you've owned one for, you know yourself, a month or 2 months, you start figuring out where everything is without having to look at where everything is. So that is one of the big challenges, especially when the motorways and dual carriageways start getting busy and you want to continue making progress. So there is a downside to it being so big. I've had gaps I could not get through. I do ride in London on occasion, and on those occasions I make the bike as skinny as possible by taking the panniers off. But even then, it's very, very tight and I will sit in traffic. But actual commuting wise, with all the fairing, the screen and everything else, you can do it all year long, all winter long. I do ride all winter long. The only weather I won't ride in is if I open my door and there's snow on the ground, so, or it is really icy. I will not ride in those weathers.
Better safe than sorry.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And with all the extra fairing and everything else on you, I'm not going to say it keeps you dry because nothing ever would. You do need your waterproofs, but it helps protect you from those very, very cold days. I think -9 is the lowest the temperature's been while I've been riding, and I was actually toasty.
Very toasty. Worked for you.
Yeah.
Going back to you going on tour, with fully loaded up with luggage, a pillion on the back, the bike anyways, dry weight is over 300 kilograms. Yeah. It's not a light bike by any stretch of the imagination. What is it like to ride once it's fully loaded, all the liquids, pannier and your pillion as well?
Because of the size of the engine, the 1400cc engine and the horsepower it's got, once you actually start moving, you get anywhere above 5 miles an hour, you don't actually notice all the weight. If you want to open it up, she will still tear down the road like her hair's on fire. And you do get told off by your pillion for doing it, because it has happened. And she will take off and you will not notice that, even cornering and everything else. Kawasaki actually got it right with the centre of gravity and everything on this, and the poise and everything it's got in the corners and the handling. It's just so balanced and it does it so well. So.
Fantastic. Dave, coming back to you, you mentioned a moment ago there, in comparison to coming from the ZX7R, that you missed a little bit of power. However, these are obviously no slouches with over 150 brake horsepower, over 130 newton meters of torque. How was it when you first got it? You first purchased the bike and those initial few weeks, few months of riding it?
The first few weeks, Simon did say to me, take it easy. For the last 6 months, I have been poddling around. Anybody watching my videos will know that I tend to sit at 60, 70 mile an hour. Simon did say to me, he said, you are going to have to get used to the power of the bike, but trust it, it will find its own line through the corners. I tended to keep bolt upright going through any corner. Like you do with a new bike. Now I've got used to actually pushing it around, getting the power. We did a run a couple of months ago and I actually left Simon toasted behind me. Actually, first time I'd opened it up in a long time, and to say that we got close to the national limit. But I wasn't watching the clocks, but obviously it does take off very, very fast. And then obviously a couple of weeks ago, first time I'd actually engaged the power, second gear, come out the local bike meet, down the road, into second gear, gave it a big, big handful and lifted the front end, and I'm like, oh my God, first time I've popped the front wheel up on any bike. And then Simon obviously said to me, he said, try it in first gear, just literally roll the power on first, and it does pick the front end up very, very quickly. But the 0 to 60 time on these is incredibly fast if you use that variable valve timing. And obviously Simon was the one that told me about the variable valve timing.
Brilliant stuff. And as we've just mentioned with Simon there about the weight of the bike, it's obviously going to be a lot heavier than the ZX7. How has that been? How has that transition been of a much heavier bike?
It's actually not that bad. Dry weight when it's stood, you do notice there is a lot of weight there, but it is still manoeuvrable. But once, as Simon says, you get the bike rolling, it's like riding an armchair. And compared to the ZX7, I can flick this round a lot more now than the ZX7. Brilliant. It's just getting used to the power, getting used to the response, starting slow and building it up. It's like riding a bicycle. You're not going to go straight out on a bicycle and ride full bore. You know you're going to have an accident. So take it easy, build up the confidence. It will come with training.
You've both mentioned it, and obviously just before we do these shows, I do a little bit of research about the bike that is coming in. All the reviews said that cornering on these was one of its exceptional points, and it's something that maybe the reviewers weren't thinking would be, you know, big, heavy sports tourer like this, maybe you'd accept it being a little bit of a weakness. But yourselves and all these reviews have said it's exceptional. What has it been for you? Obviously still fairly newish to the GTR. Have you noticed how good that really is in comparison to other bikes you've rode in the past?
The ZX7, I can push knee down. One of my faults that when we first went on a Rosberg ride was sticking my knee out and doing the racing position on a big cruiser bike, like you do after 40 years of sports bikes. Now, obviously, a little bit of guidance, Simon saying tuck your knees in and push down on your pegs. The bike will find its own line. And believe me, my last few videos, I have had this right over with the power on, hitting corners at sort of 50, 60 mile an hour. Most people will be like, oh God, you should be doing 30, 40 into a corner. This handles it with no problem, and you can still push it even harder. And I would recommend good tyres, obviously Pirellis. I absolutely rate the Pirelli GT Angels.
Simon, obviously you've had the bike a little bit longer. I know as well you've had a bit of a history with this sort of style of bike, or at least more adventure, upright positioning bikes. How does this compare to what you've rode in the past?
It's in a league of its own, really. It really is. I mean, I came from a adventure style bike previously before this, and that was very sit up and beg, and it was happy, it was comfortable, it did what it needed to do, but it didn't excite. It gave feedback, but it wasn't the kind of exciting feedback you want from a motorcycle. I actually test rode one of these 7 years ago before I bought my previous bike, and it scared the living daylights out of me because it is just such a beast and it's very, very quick. And I thought, no, I'm not ready for that now. So I went to a 1000cc, and I had that for 4 years. And after the 4 years of owning the Kawasaki Versys 1000 as it was, I actually found I was out riding it. I wanted more, and I'd always wanted one of these, and I thought, right, okay, I'm probably ready now. And I went and bought one, and I've not looked back, and it's something that I don't think I could ever outride. I push this into a corner, it wants to go further over, and it's telling me it can go faster. It's giving you that kind of feedback through the corners. I've not scraped the pegs yet because I'm too frightened to get that low, but she will do it. She will go.
It's a lot of bike to pick up if something goes.
Yeah, apparently you don't want to be picking one up on your own.
No. Would you know anything about that?
I may know a little bit about that. We was talking. It was going to come up eventually. So yeah, I will say. A week and 2 days ago, I did lay this old girl down in the road on my own. Fortunately, there was very minimal scuffing actually on the bodywork, which is surprising. It was a slow speed manoeuvre, and I did pick it up on my own, and it's not something I want to have to do again. No,
no. This time do it when there's more people, or at least people who aren't motorbike.
At least people are willing to help me.
Rather than laugh.
Yeah.
You've owned the bike, like I say, a bit longer than Dave here. Have you run into any issues, or is there anything that you're aware of that potentially are problems with these?
No, I mean, when I first got one, there's a very good mechanic I use called Darren Spears, HBB Motorcycles. Quick plug, HBB Motorcycles. He told me he said they are bulletproof, provided servicing. Get it serviced regularly. I think the book says these should be serviced around 6,000 miles. I change the oil every 4,000 miles. The water and the brake coolant and the drive shaft oils, they'll all get changed once a year. And then once a year we'll take, we've got a K&N air filter in it as opposed to the paver one. And once a year that'll get a full service and full clean out. But every 4,000 miles, just drop the oil, new filter, put it away it goes. Once a year change the spark plugs, which Dave can attest to is a real pig to do on these. So I recommend taking it to a garage to get that done if you can find a mechanic willing to do it, but it is a big job.
Who's got the patience and
Who's got the patience, yeah. It is about, I think you can do it in around about 4 hours if you know what you're doing. And
I know you remember seeing this on your...
5.5.
5.5 hours to get it all off.
Exactly.
So, again, it's servicing and looking after it. If you notice something, do it. You know, it will tear up the tyres. I've got Pirelli Angel STs on it at the moment, and I will get almost 10,000 out of the rear and about 12 to 14,000 out of the front.
Okay.
dependent on how you're riding.
How you ride it.
It is always dependent on how you ride. If you're braking heavy into corners on this, you're going to get through a front tyre before a rear. If you're pulling away using the traction control and the limiter every time you pull away, you're going to square off and
you're not getting to 10,000.
You're not going to get there. But for general actual riding, just do that, and then once a week it gets a look over, it gets the brakes checked, and all the other little bits and pieces you want to just keep your eye on. But yeah, look after it, and she will be sweet for you.
Dave, coming back to you, obviously, again, as we've always mentioned, you've recently come to the GTR. What was it about the GTR over its competition? For example, maybe like the FJR from Yamaha or the GTR1400 from BMW. What was it mainly about the GTR that took you there?
Well, I always wanted an adventure bike. Obviously, went to have a look over the local Honda dealership. Had a look at an Africa Twin, second-hand one that had only done 4,000 miles, and obviously we know Sue and all the team at Grafton. Sat on the bike and she said, let me just get some mechanics to hold the bike for you. Sat on the bike, I could tiptoe on it, and she's leading the bike over and just see if you could hold it. No chance, that bike went straight over, 4 guys holding it, and I had to step off the bike. So this is not the bike for you. We had an XJ in, had a look at the XJ, yes, but the seating position wasn't as comfortable as this when I actually sat on it. This I can actually flat foot very, very easy. And to say that I had a little mishap today, yes, I took a pillion out for the first time today. Basic thing, when putting a pillion on the bike, make sure your side stand is down. Holding the bike, pillion stepped on and grabbed my shoulder and pulled me off the bike. So she did go over today, but the best thing for any of these is get some crash bungs on it. I actually have the crash sliders at the lower part of the engine, and believe it or not, it actually rested on the crash slider, so no damage done apart from a little scuff on the crash slider, apart from the embarrassment in the front of about 100 people. So I shall be living that down next weekend and owing a few coffees left, right and centre, but I could not pick it up. It took 4 people to help me lift this up today. So at 320 kilos, it is a big bike. If it goes over, you are going to struggle to pick it up on your own.
I look forward to going to the Super Sausage next Sunday and seeing the reaction that you get. And what I love as well is I haven't had to prompt them too much into admitting that they both dropped the bike. So
no, well, you did say you may mention it. And
I may mention it. It had to come out.
Yeah.
Simon, we obviously have Dave's Gen 1 and your Gen 2. Would you mind just sort of giving a bit of a run through of what really did Kawasaki do from a bike that had already gleaming reviews?
Yeah. They changed the screen. They put a little letterbox in the screen to try and help stop some of that side buffeting you get, so you can open it up. And so going from the top down, that's one of the things. They moved the glove box from the centre console to the side. I don't know the reason for that, but that was one of the options, or one of the changes. Another one was they fitted heated grips as standard, so they're all wired into the ECU, which is very annoying because they do turn off when you're sitting in traffic without many revs going. And the other problem they had was with the Gen 1s, they were getting complaints about overheating. So an obvious change when you look at them is the size of the vents in the side. They made bigger vents in the side. And then what they did is they just slightly tuned the engine slightly to give it a softer power delivery rather than in your face getting hit with a sledgehammer. Now the sledgehammer's just tapping. But it's still very, very quick and off the road. And also, they added traction control and a changeable ABS mode as well, so you can adjust how you want the brakes, whether you're carrying lots and lots of pillion and passenger or whether you're just solo riding, so you could have them as abrupt or as soft as you like. And then the traction control, you can actually turn that on and off, and I recommend never turning it off.
No, again, better safe than sorry.
Yeah,
why would you do it?
Absolutely.
Insurance company would not be happy.
No.
A question to you both. Obviously, this is the Gen 2 Kawasaki GTR that, if I'm correct, this is still the current generation. Yeah. If Kawasaki were to, at some point in the near future, bring out Generation 3, what changes would you both like to see? Dave, starting with you.
There isn't much I would change about it really, apart from obviously the screen. I don't like a big screen. Something a little bit more aesthetic. Maybe change the angle of the screen. The other thing, obviously, the big front mudguard. I'd like to see a smaller front mudguard, but it does do great at displacing that water and keeping it away from the rider. The headlight clusters on these, you can't beat them. You know when there's a GTR coming down the road because you've got that massive headlights down the front, all 6 of those on, you are going to know something is behind you. But obviously, riding position, you can't beat it. There isn't much I would change apart from maybe a little bit more power if they go for a 1500cc.
I love it. More power, that's what it needs. Simon, what about yourself?
Well, I've got some practical changes I'd like to see them make, and some changes to bring it up to date. One being the dashboard. I'd like a full LCD dash, or something along those lines, where everything's electronic and you can see it, and rather than the analog clocks that you've got at the moment. So that's one change. The other change I would like is I would like a cruise control when you're on those long journeys, so you can just. Lots of bikes now, touring bikes, have got cruise control in them. Your BMWs, your Yamahas, they've got cruise control. Kawasaki, stick a cruise control on it. You can buy an aftermarket cruise control, but who knows if that's going to work.
Exactly.
I'm not willing to spend those kind of money just to find out it's a faff and you've got to put it in yourself. And I suppose the only other change I would like, which would be fun, was I'd like to see them throw a supercharger on it.
Okay.
A supercharged
Similar
1400.
to the H2.
Absolutely. Why not?
Why not? Why not? Dave, a concluding question for you. You said at the beginning when I started interviewing you that you now couldn't see yourself getting rid of this. This is now the perfect bike for you. Why is that? Why is the bike so special?
It just ticks all the bells and whistles. Obviously, I'm looking to do a lot more moto vlogging, a lot further rides, and obviously off the back of Simon saying it will tour perfectly. Taking the ride partner out, obviously going out for long weekends, I can actually travel further afield, and obviously with that big tank, you can get a decent 200 miles before you're refilling that tank. There isn't many bikes that are going to get 200 miles on a tank and be as comfortable over that distance. The only thing you're going to stop for is obviously a bathroom break or to fill up the fuel due to the comfort of it, and that is what I want. I need an all-round singing, dancing machine that will do the job for me, and it just ticks every single box.
That still has a bit of punch, a lot of inspiration from the ZZR 1400.
Exactly, yeah.
Perfect. And Simon, again, what about you? Why is the bike so special? It's even included in your YouTube motovlogging title.
It is in the title.
Why is it that special to you?
I don't know. I mean, when I first test rode one and it scared me, there was something about it that said, you will come and get me. The bike wants me. I don't want the bike wants me. And when you're riding it, you're just so in touch with everything. And it gives you so much feedback that I've never ridden anything that does. And I've ridden some expensive bikes and I've ridden some very big bikes. And I'm so much happier throwing my leg over this one. I mean, I've been to America and I've ridden Harley electric glides. I've ridden a friend of mine's GSA 1250, which has got all the electronics and that. Fantastic bike, loads of electronics, really, really brilliant, but the ride itself didn't do it for me. This does it for me. So Kawasaki got certain bits right in the response and the feedback from the bike to the person, which is probably why they don't want to throw any more electrics on it. It could be, because you start doing that, you start talking about electronic suspension and all things like that, which on these is dead easy to set up. You've got your bit at the back you turn to stiffen up the rear, and you've got the bits on the front you can twiddle, and you get it to where you want it and you leave it, and it's just something that I will always keep. If I get another bike, I would ideally like another one of these, a newer one. This is a 2015 model that's done quite high mileage now.
Yeah.
If I could get my hands on a 2018 model or a 2019 model, thereabouts.
Slightly lower mileage.
Lower mileage is one I would keep for the days out, and I might even tie it up with a special colour scheme.
Who knows, it could almost look as good as Dave's.
And this, I'm told, is good for 200,000 miles, so we are a quarter of the way there, so let's see where we go.
Let's see if we can get all the way. Perfect.
We'll get to
it sounds like you've got
miles.
that great connection between rider and machine.
It just talks. It's a love affair, if you like. It's an affinity. Everybody that rides a bike says they love their bike.
Of course.
Everybody does, and then they'll sell that bike, they'll get a new one, and that's the best thing since sliced bread. I could ride something else, and this would still be my love affair. This would still be my bike. This will be the one it's where I wanted to be 7 years ago, and it scared me, but it's always been there.
I think that's beautiful. It's a nice way to end. Thank you both for bringing the GTR1400s in side by side. They just look so monstrous together. And I look forward to finding out a bit more about you in the interview bit.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I wanted to pee halfway through that. Like Columbo. Oh, just one more thing.
First bike I had, Grandad gave to me, which was basically a little 50cc monkey bike with a chainsaw engine in it. Got to the age of 12, and obviously my dad being a biker, had a BSA Bantam, used to ride on the front, and first time I ever went solo, Dad was on the pillion, got it into second gear, and he stood up, put his feet down, and away I went. My first bike, which was a KX250, and then obviously 17 progressed onto the big CC bikes.
I started riding on my 16th birthday in 1985. My parents got me a Vespa PK50 because I was very much into the mod scene that was around the 80s. And my dad took me out and showed me how it all worked. It was a proper gears on the handlebars, Vespa, two-stroke engine. I started riding that at the age of 16, and that's where I started. Yeah, I keep looking at him over there. I can't help it, he's so good looking. In the 80s, it was a very, very big mod scene. It was like another revival. And I started meeting up with a group of kids, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, a little cafe in Bletchley called Greenways, right next to the bus station. You've got to remember, this is before Facebook, WhatsApp or anything like that, so you'd meet up there during the week or on a Saturday, and who's going where, who's doing what. Oh, there's a rally on in Brighton, there's a rally on in Hastings or the Isle of Wight. Quite often on Saturday there was a motorcycle shop in Northampton, which I can't remember the name of, that used to sell Vespas and scooter parts. And there was Bedlam scooters in Bedford, so we'd all oh yeah, I need a new hub for my Vespa, so the 12 of you would all go off heading down the road. Well, that's where the camaraderie of the two-wheel thing really started for me. It was no Sons of Anarchy, get me right, it's a bunch of teenagers going out enjoying themselves.
Got to the age of 16 after doing a lot of sort of semi-professional motocross, amateur schoolboy. Got to 16 when everybody had the FS1Es, the AP50s, and my first bike, believe it or not, was gifted to me by Grandad. So Grandad said to me, do you want to take my 50? Only to find out that it was a Pooch Maxi pedal-along bike. Had it for a year, was ribbed to hell for it. 17, obviously my dad said to me, there is my Honda Dream, there is your piece of green paper, we have applied for your bike licence. And I got my bike licence on my birthday at 17, and also the day of my test. Unfortunately, I didn't make the test. Ended up meeting a Mini on a hairpin bend, which put me in plaster for 6 weeks from hip to ankle. Managed to get my bike test through, only to find 5 weeks later, that was when my bike test was, so we cut my plaster cast down, attached a Coke can to the back of my heel because it was a right-hand gear shift so I could change gear. 10 minutes into the test, got told to return to the test centre, thinking, you failed, to be told by the instructor, yes, you've passed. Went into the local bike shop, which happened to be Carnell's at the time in Houghton Regis, bought a Z900, first big bike, and everybody said to me, that bike will kill you. It's too fast, it's too big, but obviously with a biking history, had that bike 3 months, walked back into Carnell's 3 months later to buy a Z1300, and I had that for 4 years, but obviously stepped through a lot of bikes. Had a little break for about 10 years between sort of 30 and 40 where I went and did other things. From meeting Phil through the garage, Eclipse Motorcycles, I ended up with a CBR 600F. Obviously had an issue with that one, moved on to the ZX7, so I'm now obviously moved from the ZX7 to the proud owner of the GTR1400.
Had a big accident when I was 18. I was on a Yamaha DT in Greece on holiday, and I got hit by a car, pushed me and the bike over the side of a 40-foot drop, and I woke up in hospital. Would that class as crazy? If you've never ridden a motorcycle before, ask yourself why you want to do it. Once you've got that answer and you know why you want to do it, you need to find a school. You need to find a good reputable school that will take you through the stages of the test. Now, depending on your age, if you want to go straight for a Category A direct access course, you're going to need to take 4 tests, 1 day's training and 3 tests. You need your CBT, which is a day's training. You need to do your theory test, which includes questions and hazard perception. And then you'll need to do Mod 1 and Mod 2. If you really, really want to do it, I'm going to tell you now, it's not cheap. Make sure you've got the money behind you to do it, because many people I know have spent all their money getting their licence and then can't afford the bike at the end they want at the end of it. They'll get the bike and they can't afford all the gear and, oh, I'll get it later, I'll get it later. My main advice is make sure you've got the money there to do this the way you want to do it. Be patient with it, it will come. As
we say, at-gat, all the gear, all the time. We see so many accidents these days where people have gone down the road, even a 20-mile-an-hour drop on a bike in a corner, you are going to come off with skin abrasions. Jeans are not going to cut it. A decent padded bike jacket, make sure you've got a full face approved helmet. with either the kite mark or an approved logo on it. Don't go for the cheap helmets that you see advertised on eBay that are £30. Would I wear one of those? No, I would use it as a plant pot. Put it in the back garden, use it as a plant pot. It is not going to offer any head protection. You've got to think, you've got one body, you've got one life. How can I protect it to the maximum? Make sure that you always do your walk round. This goes for new riders and even older riders. I still do it as well. Walk around your bike, check your lights, your indicators, make sure your tyre pressures are correct. Tyre pressures are a necessity on a bike. 2 psi will make such a lot of a difference to the handling characteristics of your bike. So tyre pressures, make sure you correct fuel. Walk around the bike, are there any loose nuts? Check your brake fluid level. That walk round video, or the walk round as we say, will take you 60 seconds, and anybody doing that should be doing it every time they ride the bike.
I might as well go, can I have a coffee? Because you had one.
So there we have it. Simon has given us an insight into what motorcycling culture was like growing up as a young rider in the 1980s, whereas Dave, Mr. RevBomb, has told us exactly what it's like working in a motorcycle dealership, selling bikes to those just beginning their motorcycling journey. Remember to check them out on their Instagram and YouTube links below. This video is kindly sponsored by you all. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, and to anyone who has bought any merch, it does go a long way to helping us bring these episodes to you. Remember, you too can buy some merch in the Amazon links down below. Remember to like and comment on this video, subscribe to the channel if you're new. We would also love to have you guys here as a guest on Wolf Tales with your pride and joy, telling us all about your experiences through your motorcycle journey. I am the Rhythmic Biker, and these are the Wolf Tales. These are the Wolf Tales.